power to inspire, heal, and transform, reminding us that every challenge is a chapter and every success is a triumph worth sharing. Hi there, welcome to The Spark, a podcast dedicated to bringing you stories of transformation, real stories of some silent heroes. This podcast is about resilience, hard work, willpower, and determination. It is about the desire to succeed. We are here to share our challenges, failures, and victories with the hope of inspiring each and every one of you. My name is Mabel Shu, and I am your host. My guest for today is Rachad Samari. Rachad is currently doing his PhD in Public Policy Analysis at Oregon State University, where he also serves as a teaching assistant. However, he started with a BA in Translation Studies, then went ahead to do a Master's in Public Policy at the American University in Cairo. Prior to enrolling at AUC, Rachad worked as a program associate at the Media Foundation for West Africa in Ghana, where he supported the implementation of projects aimed at improving participatory governance, public accountability, and media development in West Africa. Rachad is very passionate about fighting structural poverty and is driven by the desire to contribute to Africa's development. He believes that the continent's growth potential can be unleashed when citizens are empowered to take charge of their own destiny and create a brighter future for upcoming generations. Hi, Rachad. Thank you so much for accepting to be here today with us.
Hello, Mabel. It's my pleasure to be here, and I will say this again. Listening to you, it made me blush. Yes, wondering if that's really me.
Of course, you are.
hmm
Okay, so Rachad, I would just like to go back to your childhood, right? When you were a kid, there's this question that always used to ask us, what do you want to become when you grow up? So can you
hmm
share your childhood dreams with us and how
Hmm.
they probably shaped your decisions towards the university, towards high school, etc.?
I think to me there are multiple streams, and I will try to follow each of these streams to enable you and all the listeners to be able to understand how different things have shaped me.
Mm,
So as a kid, I was very active and I used to ask a lot of questions,
mm,
really a lot of questions. And some of the questions that I used to ask would be on things that no one wants to talk about or things that people are struggling to solve. And so I would remember even the first time I went to school, as my mom would tell me, so as a kid, you get your bath from your mom. So your mom gives you your shower first, and then she would shower herself, and then usually she would take me with her to her office.
mhm,
And when I go to my mom's office, uh, I would usually be with the director, go into their offices, ask them questions on their work, on their paperwork. And my mom used to work at the treasury, and so it's a very sensitive place as a governmental office. And so we don't want a kid to keep on moving as freely as I used to. And so I used to ask them a lot of questions. And there was a morning when my mom was giving me my shower, I just kept on asking her things. And she said, enough is enough. Today, I'm taking you to school. And so that is how I started going to school. It was unplanned, it was not scheduled. That
Oh,
very morning, we went to buy my backpack.
yeah.
We bought a chalk. And then my mom took me to the nearest primary school, which was no a kindergarten or something like that, a
Mm-hmm.
public kindergarten just near our house. And I cried so much because I wanted to go with her to her office. But
Yeah.
then that's how I started school. I'm making a reference to this point because as a kid I hated school, but I used to ask a lot of questions.
Mm-hmm.
Again, the second stream is that as a kid, my parents would always take us to our village,
Okay.
especially my dad. And so to my dad, it was very central that we all went to the village and that we all got used to being in the village. And so every year, every single year, my dad would take us to the village. We'd spend 2 to 3 days there when we're very small at the time with my brothers, my cousins, all of us.
Mm-hmm.
And over time, we started following him around. So when my dad would be traveling across different villages, my dad is into rural development and hydraulics. And so building pipes, different projects, we'll be following him around. I started meeting people who were different or who looked completely different, or the outlook I had on people were very different from the people that I would meet in all those other villages, including mine,
Mm-hmm.
even my friends. So a very simple example is that we'll go to the village, I'll be with my friends and we would play around, and then I'll come back home, shower, and change my clothing.
Mm-hmm.
So my shirts, my trouser, and everything. And they would be in the same dresses. And we'll play again in the evening. I would go home, shower, come back with some new clothing, and
Mm-hmm.
my friends would be in the same dresses. So again, I would ask them uncomfortable questions. I'm like, why are you not changing your dresses?
So you're terrorizing the whole community with your questions.
It's crazy, maybe. I used to ask so many uncomfortable questions. I can go into an old woman, like a grandmother's hut, and ask her, why do you live in this old hut?
Oh
Why
wow.
don't you have electricity? Yes,
Right.
this person is sick in the village, in the house in our village, and I'll ask, why haven't you guys sent him to the hospital?
Mm.
Because I was a kid, I didn't know the sensitive nature
Yeah.
of certain issues, and I really was obsessed about knowing why people were doing what they were doing at that specific point in time.
Okay.
And so,
Rashad, sorry. So in the midst of those questions, especially with the sensitive ones, how was the
yeah.
response? Like how
So
did they
you
respond to you?
Yeah, some people wouldn't respond, some
Right.
would respond, some would get very much frustrated. And I have a cousin, his name is Usman. I'm very close to him. He's like a brother. All my cousins are like my brothers.
Mm-hmm.
And so Usman used to answer a lot of the questions that I would have. And so it used to be that sensitive. And I'll be traveling with my dad. We'll go into communities in which there is no clean drinking water. And those communities would serve us water that is dirty.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, I see the water is dirty. My dad sees the water is dirty, and my dad will drink it and will give it to me. And any sign of resistance that my dad may sense for me would be automatically quashed by his look. So I would have to drink. So I have to drink that water. Uh, and so I used to ask all those questions. And
Yeah.
one day, one friend told me in the village, told me that they don't have any other clothes. That that was it. That was what they had wearing. And so I started asking myself, why is it that those people in the village lived in different conditions,
Mm-hmm.
um, conditions that were very difficult compared to me who lives in the city, who has access to electricity
Mm.
and water, who goes to school, and I have a good school, and I have a good teacher, and all of those things. Why
Right.
is it that my parents are different from these friends' parents?
Yeah.
And so these whys and questions started making me think about structural inequality, structural poverty. But growing up, I quickly forgot about these things. I
Mm-hmm.
got used to seeing them in their conditions. And at some point you become numb to the differences that you see compared to the people who come from outside. So as a kid, I was coming from outside, but now I'm part of the community. And so I became numb. And as an active kid who used to ask a lot of questions, even to animals, yes, my parents always thought that I would grow up and become a journalist
Right.
because I would ask questions, very uncomfortable questions. I will investigate. I keep on asking why.
Mhm.
So my dad was obsessed about the idea of me becoming a journalist because he thought that I naturally had those skills.
Right.
But I wanted to become an engineer, just like my dad, work
Oh.
in his field of, yes, work in his field and etc. And so when I was in middle school, junior high school, mathematics was just not working. Physics was very
Oh no.
difficult.
Yeah.
Chemistry, I hated it. And so my dad told me, you can't be an engineer, you can't be a medical doctor with these grades in mathematics and
Yeah.
physics,
Yeah.
but you can be a journalist. Remember, we always told you you should be a journalist, you can be a journalist, and etc. And I would tell my dad, there's no money in journalism.
So at that
So
age, you were already considering the monetary aspect of your job.
yes,
Interesting.
because one day with my dad, we were in the car and then we saw beggars.
Okay.
And those people were begging for money, of course. And so we had to give them money and go. And again, I kept on asking my dad why. And my
Mm.
dad had to answer a lot of whys. Why is this person there? Why is he asking for money? Why can't he make money? Are there no jobs? Why?
Mm.
And so when I was told about journalism and etc., I thought that if I had a job
Yeah.
where I make a lot of money, maybe I can invest or dash a lot of people this money, buy
Right.
them free food,
Yeah. Just take
pay
care of them.
good, etc. And that used to be my frame of thought. And so when my dad told me about journalism, I told him there's no money in journalism
Mm.
until high school. And in high school, when I was 15 years old, one of my other cousins told me to have an internship in journalism. And if I don't like it, then we all know that I don't like it. And that was a defining moment in my life.
Right.
And so I told my dad, well, the next holidays, instead of going to the village for
Mhm.
1 whole month, let me have an internship at a radio station. And he
That was
found
in
it
high
as a good.
school.
Yes, I was in high school. I was like
Interesting.
15 years old.
Okay.
And at the time I used to be obsessed about the idea of getting a job and stuff like that. And so my dad was like, okay, that looks like a good thing. So we went to a city in the north where my mom is now. And in that city, I looked for an internship.
Mhm.
It was very difficult. But then I was able to get an internship for 2 months
Okay.
in a radio station. And that was the first time I was in an office environment working and completing tasks. And
Mm.
so over there, we ran a lot of interviews with people. I would follow my bosses. I would meet other famous journalists, and then I would ask them, how is the job? What do they like about the job? What don't they like about the job? Like
Oh, the
very
same way you traumatized your mom at the treasury when you were
exactly,
younger.
exactly. So very traumatic questions to them. And the most traumatic one, and I know that, is that I would ask them, is there money in journalism?
At 15, Rashad.
Yeah,
At
at age 15.
15.
And so they would tell me no, and then I would say, so why are you doing it if it's not paying you well? And really, journalists are not well paid in our region. Like a lot of journalists do struggle
Yeah.
in their field of work. There's a lot to be done there in order to improve their well-being and welfare. But yeah, I would ask them, why do you keep on doing this? And then they would say, it's the passion, it's the love of what you do. And that's when I started hearing words on passion, love,
Mm.
care,
Right.
things that I had never
What
considered as
about?
metrics.
Yeah.
Good. And so after the internship, I told my dad, journalism is great, but I think journalists suffer. They are struggling. The radio station is like this and like that. At times, it was very, very difficult for the radio station to really fully function because of financial issues,
Yeah.
because of difficulties in terms of the regulations, which my boss would explain to me, you know. So as an intern, I got to understand very quickly through different experiments what I would want to do and what I wouldn't want to do.
Right.
And with the keywords related to love, passion, at the time, I used to do economics in high school,
Mhm.
and I discovered that I was naturally passionate about it. In economics, there will be points on poverty, on growth, on social welfare.
Mhm.
And in the final year in high school, we had economics and sociology. And in sociology, there'll be discussions on welfare, people, why people do what they do. And I was really good at philosophy as well. And with my questions, of course, and in
Wow.
philosophy, you've got to
Yeah.
think a lot very critically. And
Yeah.
so when I was finishing high school, I told my dad that I would study economics or business related to these things.
Mhm.
And my dad was like, maybe you still want to try this
The
journalism thing.
journalism. Yeah.
And my dad would be like, if you try this journalism thing, I would send you to a very great school. You would learn, you would become a
That was a bribe.
specialist. Yes. And with my dad, I used to watch the news. Very early on, my dad would call me, sit me down, and we'll watch the news together. And
Right.
we would talk about different political issues in the country together. And I'll ask him questions about some of these things.
Mhm.
And so before finishing high school, there was a defining moment in my dad's life also. So at the time, my dad used to work at ECOWAS, at the ECOWAS Parliament, and he was one of the specialists in hydraulics. And so one day he came back from his trip to Abuja, and this is a part of the story that a lot of people do not know. He
Mhm.
came back from the trip and he told me, Rashad, forget about journalism,
Oh.
study translation. And then I told him, what is this?
Right.
So I was bent on economics and
Oh,
and
I see.
sociology on the one hand, my dad on the past, and my whole family thought that journalism would be best
Journalism.
for me.
Hmm.
And now
All
this
of a
guy
sudden.
comes good. He's like study translation and then go to do a master in interpretation. And these were the first times I heard those words. And so I was like, what is this thing? And my
Yeah.
dad told me that they were having a meeting at
Hmm.
ECOWAS
Okay.
and they had interpreters. And they always had interpreters, but I guess he never paid attention to them
Hmm.
until that specific meeting. So during the meeting, they went beyond the time at which they had to finish,
Yeah.
and the interpreters stopped interpreting.
Interesting.
And yes, they stopped interpreting, and it was a huge mess. The meeting was completely stopped because of these interpreters. The meeting went beyond time. The
Yeah.
interpreters decided to stop and to protest because that wasn't part of their contract.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so the meeting organizers at ECOWAS had to go and speak and negotiate and blah, 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 blah. And my dad was like, the power these
Yeah.
people have is
Yeah.
just massive.
He didn't talk about the money.
Yeah, wait. And so
I said,
he
wait.
he started inquiring on my behalf and he started asking, how do you pay interpreters? What do you do? How's their contract? How's their training? What skills do you need? And these kind of things. And at the time, one of my stepmom is from Nigeria, and so at the time I used to speak English with her, and at the time I could also speak about four local languages.
Oh, wow.
So in my arsenal, I had about six, and I could play with those languages very easily.
Hmm.
And I was doing very well at school, and I was in a field in which I could easily branch into languages. And so my dad just saw a perfect fit. If the
Right.
kid doesn't want to do journalism, maybe he would love
Translation.
translation.
Yep.
And so I was not really pro for that
Yeah.
until I went to Ghana. And when I was going to Ghana after high school, I had to spend 1 year learning English. And
Mm-hmm.
so to my dad, spend that 1 year to learn English, and that was a big opportunity for me because
Mm-hmm.
most of my friends after high school who stayed in Benin directly went directly to the university and started in whatever they had to study.
Yeah.
But in my case, I had to spend 1 whole year learning English, which I already spoke with my stepmom from Nigeria. And so during that year, uh, I started thinking a lot. I would think about things that I love. I'd read a lot. I'd go on Google and Google different careers, different professions, and see what those people are doing until it came to the point where I had to apply
Mm-hmm.
to the university in Ghana.
Okay.
And that very week, again, there was a defining moment. That very week at the English school, our teacher was telling us about translation.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that was the second person telling me about translation after my dad. And the teacher was telling us about how special it is to be a translator, how knowledgeable a translator must be, and how skillful an interpreter must be.
Mm-hmm.
Because those two are different things. And
Yeah,
I
right.
started finding it quite interesting because it looked very special, it looked niche, and it seems like very few people can really do it well.
Mm-hmm.
And so that very week, I had to go to the Trans Bureau at the University of Ghana to translate my transcripts before applying to school. And so when I went there, there was the only one person, the staff who was in charge of just receiving things, translating them. His colleagues were not there.
Okay.
And when I entered in the office, there were a lot of documents, papers. It looked like messy,
Mm-hmm.
but beautiful in a certain way. And so, and so I gave him my documents. I paid. I did whatever I had to do. Then I was like, well, since he's a translator and since people have been telling me so much about these people, let me sit down and ask
And
him
ask
again questions.
questions, of course.
Good. So I asked a lot of questions. This, I know that about myself. And so I sat down and I'm like, what do you do as a translator? Okay. What's your skill? Okay. How many people become translators? Okay. How is the training to become a translator? And we spoke for about 3 hours.
Wow.
And yes, we really spoke, and he gave me his time as if he knew something about me.
Mm.
We spoke for 3 hours, and when I left that meeting, I bought credits, I called my dad, and I'm like,
I
Dad,
found it.
yes, I'm going to do translation. So that is how it was decided.
Wow.
Those 3 hours, my dad flipping from journalism to translation, telling me about it, me now going on my own to Ghana, learning about it from school and the translator himself. And there was something else. Very few people were skillful or had the skill to become translators and
Mm.
interpreters.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like, well, that could be quite interesting to do. And my series of questions. And that's how I went to the School of Translators. I went through the processes and I really loved it. It was amazing. So in terms of my childhood to university and first degree, I think this is how it is. Those defining moments
Wow.
for me going to school, asking questions, for me meeting people, my friends in the village,
Yeah.
the grandma, even my grandmom used to be tired of me. She would tell my dad, "What is this kid off? He keeps on asking us questions and
Questions.
questions.
Yeah.
Yes, very uncomfortable things, you know. I would see an animal, even animals. Like I'll be there and looking at a goat and say, Goat, where are you going? You know that if you
What?
go out, yes,
Really?
it was an obsession,
Right.
Mabel. And as a kid, this is a story that one of my stepmom would tell me when I was a kid and we were traveling with her, my dad, and everyone, I would see cows in the roads, and I'll keep on ask on the road, sorry, and I keep on asking, why are the cows in that position? Why are they
No,
showing us their backs? Why
no,
can't they stand? Because to me, we should all be on our two legs. And
no.
so even till date, there are places where I go to, and then they will ask me, okay, now that you are grown, why are cows the way they are?
I don't think you still have the answer to that question.
Well, I think this is how they are made, but there's an anime, there's a cartoon in which the cows stand on their two legs.
So
And
maybe
when
that was what
humans,
influenced your
yes,
questions.
yes. And so I used to ask a
Interesting.
lot of questions.
Right.
One day I kept on disturbing a chicken. And so a mother chicken, right? And her
Mhm.
chicks. And I was disturbing them and asking them questions. And then the chicken attacked me and I started crying. And my mom was like, yes, enough is enough.
Finally, yeah, finally.
Forget about those animals. They cannot talk back to you. And
Speak to
I'm like, no,
people.
I was just asking them a question. So, yes, this is me and questions. And I think questions are very core to who I am. Yes.
Yeah.
And so
Mm,
that is how I got to the point till university. And so many other
interesting.
questions shaped my path. Yeah.
Interesting. So,
Oh, I spoke a lot. Yeah,
ba-
I told you everything.
you've actually said everything. So
Yeah,
basically, you're saying what you're saying is that your decision to finally do translation at the university
yeah,
was shaped by your dad's experience and
yeah, exactly.
the engagement you had when you went to
Yeah,
submit your documents.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
if your dad had not insisted that you do translation, you probably would have been
yeah.
doing something around economics and sociology, right?
Yeah, it's very likely. I
But
think that
mm,
the, there were chains of events.
okay.
First, there's the experience from my dad,
Mm-hmm.
and secondly, there's my teacher at the English school, and third, there is the experience that I had with the translator himself.
Mm,
And usually people don't get to meet people who are doing what they want to do, usually. Or
yeah.
even when they meet, usually, especially, and this is a West African context,
Yeah.
usually when they meet, they don't ask the kind of questions
Questions
that
they
I would
should ask.
ask.
And
What
sometimes, even
skill?
when they
Yeah.
ask, the person might
Mhm.
not have the time
Exactly,
to
exactly,
respond to you.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. I was influenced by my environment and by different chains of events.
Yeah.
And I read a lot at the
Mm,
time. During that first 1 year, learning only English, no, I read a lot. I listened to a lot of podcasts
mm-hmm.
on passion, love, and in what you do, you
Mm-hmm.
know?
Some of
And
those words
so
you heard earlier.
yes, some of those words I heard earlier during my internship. And
Yeah.
yes, there's also my internship, which allowed me to cancel a lot of options.
Mm, mm,
And weirdly, during the internship, I did a lot of things related to language and I had to apply myself.
mm,
So, looking at it, I think different things connected and
mm.
guided me towards translation
Okay.
as a field of study. Yeah, in Ghana. Yeah.
Mm. But Rashad,
Hmm.
during the time where you were doing the course, the translation
Yeah.
course, did you have
Yeah.
a mentor during that
Hmm.
period? Was there anybody who was mentoring you? I know you had already figured out, like, yes, because you wanted to do translation, this is where you should be. But apart from that, did you have a mentor who was maybe there to guide you, as in when you finish with the university, this is what you can do, this is how you can do it, and all of that?
Well, in translation as a field,
Hmm.
not really.
Okay.
I could I could see seniors in our school finishing and then getting jobs, and there was something. So my dad came to Ghana once,
Mm-hmm.
and this is again related to the money part.
Mm-hmm.
And uh, and my dad is really called to some of my career decisions.
Yeah.
And he was with one of his friends. They flew from Nigeria to Ghana. And his friend asked me, what are you going to do at the university? And then I said, that's how the friend speaks naturally. What are you going to do at the university? And so I'm like, I'm going to study translation. Then he looks at my dad and he's like, this boy is going to end poverty in the whole family. Yes.
He had already
And then
understood the translation business.
Yes, and he was like,
Right.
"There's so much money in it, and etc." And this is what you usually hear when you are at the School of Translators.
Mm-hmm.
You would see a lot of people who have finished who will tell you how much you can make in the field if you are really good. You'd see your lecturers, your professors telling you about the field in itself, but in terms of formal mentoring.
Yeah.
They'll tell you about the beauty of the field and how it is.
Okay.
But in terms of formal mentoring,
Mm-hmm.
not really.
Okay.
Not really. I used to work a lot with my Arabic professor, and that was very important to me
Mm.
in terms of learning, understanding the translation market, understanding how I could position myself, and these kind of things. I used to make a lot of the decisions myself because,
Okay.
again,
Okay.
I used to ask questions and I'll
Yeah.
ask him, how should things be? How should we move? And etc.
All
So
right.
yes, yeah.
Okay.
Not really a formal mentor,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm.
an ecosystem, yeah, in
Perfect.
which I could make decisions. Yeah, this is how I should put it. Yeah,
Okay. But basically, an ecosystem that was
exactly.
serving as a guide. But again,
Yeah.
Rashad, then you switched again to public policy
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
after the BA in translation, you switched
Yeah.
again to public policy.
Yeah.
Um, I'm trying, like, can you also
You're
share?
trying to
There were
make the
definitely
connection.
not necessarily the connection, but because you had already mentioned that when you were young, some of the issues
Yeah.
that your dad
Uh-huh.
engaged in rural development, I think that maybe
Mm-hmm.
that would also
Mm-hmm.
have had some influence. But the
Exactly.
transitioning from translation to public policy, I know that it would definitely not have been easy because your
Mm-hmm.
background was around translation. Then you went on to
Mm-hmm.
masters in public policy. So can you share with us some of the, if there were challenges, I think there were definitely
Mm-hmm.
challenges. What were the challenges that you encountered during that transition period?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So when I was at the School of Translators, I worked very hard and I really loved it. And I thought that the minute I finish my undergrad in translation, I would enroll into a master degree program in interpreting, conference interpreting,
Okay.
go there, finish, become a conference interpreter, and then continue and
Life made
become.
simple.
Yes, and that was the plan that I made for myself the minute I decided to study translation. At times, people would say that their parents chose their field for them. I think in my case, I got nudges. So my dad nudged me, and then because of that nudging, I decided on a certain field. But he didn't force me, and so it was very easy for me to say I work hard, become a good translator,
Mhm.
and finish, work hard, become a good conference interpreter, finish this, get to the market, do well, and end poverty in my family. And so that was the frame of thought until
You were
until
bent
my
on ending
final.
poverty in your family.
Yeah, it was an obsession
Mm.
to me, and it is an obsession to me. It defends a lot of things that I do, but at the time it went numb again. So I forgot about all these, and I was really focused on my studies and what I was doing. And so people would see me and see what I'm doing and wonder if I really wanted to become a translator. At the time, I really loved it. I breathed it completely. I worked very hard on my classes and all my assignments. But then in my final year at the university, fourth year, I applied to the internship at Waxy. And again, there's a lot of intricacies and different stories that compounded to that. But
Mhm.
I applied to the internship at Waxy AF, and for those who do not know, West Africa Civil Society Institute. And the internship was very challenging to me. First, I was very, very surprised that I was selected because I was coming in with a translation background, applying for a position or for an internship in NGO capacity development. And so I was first impressed that they picked me, impressed at myself and surprised. But somewhere I could rely on some key learnings that I had during my undergrad because we did a whole year class in international relations, a whole year
Okay.
class in law, a
Right.
whole year class in economics. And so these were like small sprinkles of
Mm.
spices that really shaped me and my answers and my application to the internship. But
Mhm.
then during the internship, it was, I
A
think, very
whole
difficult.
new ball
Yeah.
game.
Yeah, it was extremely difficult. But there were decisive moments which bolstered my confidence. The first thing that was very important was that some of the other interns, that's Kojo, who is now the policy lead at the Africa Center for Energy Policy. There is Nanayama, who is currently in Geneva, I think.
Mhm.
And there was also Oyinda, who was doing her master's, an Erasmus master's, and was doing her internship as well at WAXI, on an externship or an attachment in
Mhm.
research. And so these three different people really, really, really helped me because I would ask them questions. How do you do this? How do you go about that? There's this thing that I'm struggling with. Would you mind helping me? Especially in terms of writing. It was so complex to write because I've learned just to translate, but not really to write, generate ideas,
Mm.
generate thoughts, and
Mhm.
then write and etc. And so it was like a micro group in a larger macro environment of the
Right.
organization. And
Yeah.
that micro group, Oyinda, Kojo, Nanayama, they really helped me a lot. But then there was also the resource center at Wati, the office in which we were, where there were also other young people who made me very comfortable.
Mm.
So there was at the time this guy, oh la la, I remember the names. I
Mhm.
remember all the names. But of course, there's Ibrahim, there's David, who was there, and there's also Kwame who was there, and they were into the IT and monitoring and evaluation. But I could ask them questions often on the different things that I was doing, and I used to work very hard again on this thing. At times, I'll be sleeping during the break hours because I'll be very much exhausted. My battery was very small at the time. And
Mhm.
since I inject a lot of effort into my work,
Mhm.
it became very exhausting.
Mhm.
But then they would take a lot of pictures of me sleeping. And so if you go into the archives in Waxy, you see my pictures sleeping on the decks, but it was difficult.
Yeah.
Uh, that was a key thing,
Mm.
this environment. The
Yeah.
second bit was that I worked with Charles and Leandre. So Charles Kodjo Van Dyke and Leon Bannon. And Leon Bannon used to be the capacity development officer and Charles the program head. And Charles did something, two things. First thing is that when I was struggling with writing, each time I would struggle with writing, he'll tell me, Rashad, you are brilliant. You can do this. You can do this very well, and you will impress yourself. And that was very important to me. Charles never saw my writing and said, this is poor, this is bad.
Mhm.
He never
Mhm.
saw, and I would make a lot of mistakes, even in the different programs that we're organizing, the different documentation that I have to submit, even my thinking, conceptual thinking in writing concept notes and these kind of things. I'll make a lot of mistakes. Charles will be like, "Don't worry, you'll do better. You'll do better. You'll do better." And Leon, whatever I would do, and just submit it, Leon would tell me, "Rashad, you are brilliant." And that was also amazing in boosting my
Mhm.
confidence. And
Yeah. Just
so,
pushing
so
you.
they good. So they didn't see what I was doing
Right.
from day to day. They saw me as Rashad is a
Person.
brilliant
Yeah.
individual who is working
Who's
hard
working
and
hard because he has something, there's an objective he wants to meet, and he's putting
exactly
in the energy and the
good,
efforts to do that.
good.
Right.
And during the internship again, I still wanted to finish the internship and apply for a master and go back to do interpretation.
Mhm.
But I was struggling with that thought because at Waxy, I started
Mm.
seeing a new
Another
world. I started seeing
dimension.
good.
Right.
I started seeing NGOs, what NGOs were doing, what
Yeah.
Waxy was doing. I started discovering the development sector. And I
Mhm.
was like, oh, there's a sector that deals with development. I learned
Yes.
this in economics, but I thought that it was only limited to the government. And
Right.
again, I had a chat with Charles. We had series of chats, some in his car, some in his office, and the very last one we had was in the airport. And so this is to tell you how much he
Mhm.
influenced me, and I would ask him questions. And the very last chat, in our very last chat, he told me, go back, go back, go back, down, back into my childhood, things that I used to care about, things that used to come to me naturally, defining moments. And that's where, in the plane, thinking on several days, because we had these kind of conversations during my internship, as part of career mentorship and these kind of things. And I kept thinking for days and days and days and days and days, weeks, about defining moments in my life, things that made me want to take action, like clearly. And I could remember those defining moments at some point that, yes, there was a time where my friends in the village didn't have enough clothing. There was a point where the hat of the neighbor fell. There was a heavy rain, the hat fell, and it was too weak, and so they struggled. There was a heavy rain and these kind of things. Uh, we went to a village with my dad. The water was dirty. We went to the farm, and the roads were not good, and those kind of things. And I could see people struggling, uh, women who are not able to get to the hospital on time, children who would die. And actually, when I was a kid, we once was in the village, and my two of my big brothers were extremely sick, and just in the room in which they were, there was a kid who was so sick that that kid died, and that kid had to be sent to a bigger hospital, but financial resources
Mm.
were not allowing for that. The hospital was too small. And eventually, again, to tell you about the inequality, my brothers were so sick that at some point, my dad sent money and they took us out of the village to the city.
Mm.
I was also sick at the time. They took us to the city. We got better healthcare. And this kid could have been among us.
Mhm.
He could have been shipped also, if I should put it that way, to the city to get better treatment. And so I kept on making those connections in my brain. And it was just like electricity magnifying itself. And I really was like, this thing happened and I wanted to do something, but I could not. I saw this thing and I wanted to do something, but I could not. There's this person who told me this thing, and I asked questions and they told me about their precarity, and I could not do anything about that. And so, why shouldn't I go into a field in which there's meaning to who I am, to what I care about, and to the change I want to see in the world?
Mm.
Rather than going, working hard, money is important. I still want a Lamborghini, but
Mhm.
rather than going, working hard, and just paying other people to do the things, why shouldn't I just go into that? And this is how
Mm.
I make the larger connections to everything that I'm doing.
Mm.
And during the trip, at the airport, after the final discussion at the airport, we went to Guinea-Conakry with Charles and Leon. I got a job offer. Um, it was just like that. I started working with the West Africa Civil Society Institute. It was on democracy, participative governance, and good governance. But I could make those connections again. I was like, if the governance system is good, if there's participatory governance, then maybe if the first project that I was working on is going on well, then maybe, just maybe, things would extrapolate and improve the lives of the people that I care about most.
Mm.
And this is what happened. In my first project that I was handling in Ghana, Burkina Faso, and Senegal, in Burkina, for example, the project led to the government repairing brain scanners to detect to heal stroke patients. The government sent teachers to rural schools. Different journalists did some work on roads in rural areas, and I could see that although I was working on democracy related issues, although I was working on participatory governance, which many people may not really connect to poverty, there was a direct effect, there was a ripple effect. If you gather a lot of people in a town hall meeting to meet their representative and voice out their issues and participate in this governance process, then the governance or the whoever is in charge, the assemblyman, the mayor, would know their issues and then take action. If you work with radio stations and journalists to voice up issues in remote areas, maybe there could be a change. And so this is how I started making those kind of connections. And my first year, the first project in my in my first job with the Media Foundation for West Africa went extremely well. But it was again difficult because again, this is not my field. What is driving me is just the passion. So I'm riding and I'm forcing adrenaline and passion as my fuel, honestly. And so wherever you see my car going, my only fuel or the two fuels that I have is my passion and the adrenaline, the
mm,
jumps
mm.
of adrenaline that I get when there is a result or an output. So
Yeah,
one of the quick things we did in the project led to government taking action. And I'm like, whoosh, this is a peak in adrenaline. Let me take more action. Let me work harder. And so this is how it was. And again, I was engaging Charles. In terms of mentorship, I think that mentorship emerged in the development sector rather than when I was in the School of Translators because
right. Yeah,
when I was working at WAXI, at the Media Foundation for West Africa, during some of my project, when it's really difficult for me in terms of thinking, conceptualizing, or seeing progress, I'll speak with Charles very easily. My boss at the time at the Media Foundation for West Africa was also very, very instrumental in guiding me and answering some of my questions because those connections were not easy to be made, right? And so I'll ask her, why are we doing this? Why does it matter? And I play the devil's advocate even on my own ideas a lot. I can give you an idea and tell you, Mabel, from now on, maybe you should wake up at 6 a.m. and work hard. And then I'll come back and say, will it really change your life? Does it
mm,
matter if you wake up at 6 a.m.? So a kind of external validation of the idea that I gave you. And
mm,
so
mm.
this she was very instrumental. And there was also Leandre. At the time, I also used to speak a lot with Shamrit Padonou, um, who works with another organization now. I can't remember the name, but yeah, I would engage them a lot because they were part of the small ecosystem that I had at Waxy that boosted my confidence. So as I went out in the world and I struggle, I go back to them like it is my source, my feeding source of energy. So I'll go back to them and then they'll tell me, Rashad, we know you are struggling, but you are brilliant. You will make it,
Yeah, right.
even when I'm struggling. So it's always important to have that source that is going to feed you.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
the first year, they fed me
So
so well. They fed me so much. Yeah.
yeah, and that's actually what's leading now to the last question I wanted to ask
Yeah.
with regards to
Yeah.
advice. So I know
Yeah.
there are a couple of people out there too who are struggling with transitioning. There are people who are
Mm-hmm,
struggling even
mm-hmm,
knowing what they are passionate about and even beginning what they're passionate about. So, based on
mm-hmm,
your experiences, based on all the challenges you've gone through, if there were three things that you would want to give as advice, either to people who are trying to transition, or to people who are searching for that thing that they're passionate about, or to people who are just struggling to figure out what they want to do, what would those three
mm-hmm.
things be?
I think the first thing is to have a support system.
Perfect.
It's super, yeah, it's very important to have the support system. And at the time, my support system was very big. There was Kojo, as I mentioned, there was Oyinda, there was Nanayama, there was David, there was Jervin also from Waxy, there was Stella from Waxy, there was Jim Chick from Waxy, who was very instrumental in mentoring my writing skills and bearing with me. And today, whatever I write today is based on the lessons I received from Jim. And so, and even when I'm struggling in my job, I'll get back to Jim and tell him, Jim, I'm writing this thing. I'm very much struggling with this. And then Jim would tell me, think like this, do this. And so I'll go back to Charles for emotional support and these kind of things. I'll get back to Leon with technical issues related to my project. And then I will make also my boss at my work at the Media Foundation for West Africa, understand where I'm coming from, and ask her questions to guide me with some of the technical
Mm,
things that
mm,
we were doing. And so I think the most important thing for me, the
mm,
thing that really, really, really helped me do whatever I'm doing till date
mm.
is
Support
the support
system.
system. Yes, the
Right.
support system. My friend Stella, for example, who is like a sister to me, at times she will just text me, Rashad, you will do well. Don't worry, you will do well. And that will be it. And I'll tell her, oh, I'm not sure. She's like, you will do well. We are from outside, we see you. You will do well. Don't
Right.
worry. At
Okay.
times,
That
yes. Second advice, just work hard.
work
It
hard.
sounds very cliche. Yes, it sounds very cliche, but this is something that my dad always says, and he did his best to ingrain it in all of us. I don't know if it is especially me, but it's the core of me. So there are two things. First, my dad would say, humans are born to work as birds to fly. So when you wake up as a bird, you must fly, right? Yes. Okay, so when you wake up as a human, wake up and work. And my dad would wake us up during his happy days with a song called Good Morning Friends. This is the day. Wake up. I'm trying to put it in English. Wake up strong with a lot of energy and face your day. Work hard and persevere. And that used to be a song that he would sing in the morning. During his
Mm,
happy days, I
mm.
need to stress these things because my dad hated it when we slept too much in the house. And so the second thing that my dad would tell me is do your best. Your best may
Right.
not be the best, but it is
But
your
it's your
best.
best. Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
And if you keep on giving your best, you will become the best.
Yeah. Right.
It it rings, it's always with me. I carry it everywhere. If you come to my room right now and you check my wall, you will see it written. Yeah. It's just like that. So
Perfect.
so I think yeah, you need to work
Work
hard.
hard. Right.
And the last thing is you need to get your shots of adrenaline and passion.
Hmm.
No one, yes, you need to get your shots of adrenaline and passion. It's like at times you need your set of steroids or whatever that could be. But I'm not saying you should go and consume a substance. No. I'm not also saying you should go and harm someone outside. No. I'm not also saying you should do something dangerous. No. Take it into the context. Do things that generate an emotional joy and pleasure out of your
Right.
work. If you are doing something that does not make you happy, then maybe you should stop it. A lot of people would say happiness doesn't pay the bills. That could be true. But I always say that if you love what you do as work, then maybe you are no more working. You are just breathing out what you love. And
Mm.
because you love it so much, you don't see the hours flying by. And you can work so hard and very intensely. And people will find you very weird. But it's because you are wired differently. It's because you are getting your adrenaline and that fuel that drives you from whatever you are doing.
Right.
And at times, I believe that you have to be obsessed about one thing.
Mm.
So there are days when I'm working on one thing, just one thing, and I'm there for the whole day in my room, and you don't see me out. And I check the time, and I just noticed that I've been seated for like 5 to 6 hours, and I'm like, what? You don't notice it. It's like 30 minutes because I get my shots of adrenaline
Mm-hmm.
in the job.
Mm.
When I'm working and then there is an outcome that is amazing, I'm super happy. And that
Yes.
makes me want to do more.
Right.
Usually, when people
Right.
achieve something, they want to stop there. No, because you're obsessed, because your problem, the bigger picture that you have, because the bigger picture of improving the lives of the people in my village, for example, of ending structural poverty, if I can, has not been solved. The small milestones that I reach, the government doing this, that, through my work, because my work is contributing to something, it's a shot of adrenaline and passion. And that keeps
Mhm.
you going. You are
Yeah.
no more desperate. You are
Yes.
working hard. You are seeing small, small things sprinkled along the way. And those feed you and drive you. So the 3 point is your support system, number one. Number two, um, your passion should, no, 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 passion, yeah, yeah, yeah. Passion should drive you. And finally, your shots of adrenaline. Yeah.
Perfect.
There's a lot
Perfect.
more. There's a lot
Yeah.
more.
Yeah.
But
We
yeah,
could we
work
could have
hard,
this
work hard.
conversation for the next six hours and we'll still go.
I'm so
Like you
sorry.
mentioned,
I don't,
you will not
yeah,
even notice that the time has gone by very fast. I'm just looking at
yeah.
how long the conversation has taken and it's really been interesting. But Rasha, thank you
I'm
so
sorry.
much. So much.
Yes.
Your story is you see sometimes we sometimes maybe I would say undermine the advice from our parents, but I know that sometimes it's true that we should follow our own paths. But our parents too sometimes have lived some
Yeah,
experiences and they know what might
yeah,
be good for us. And I'm glad
yeah,
that you were able to just listen to your dad. He shared his experience and you followed that path. And that path has led you to discovering a lot about
exactly.
yourself. It's not the
Mm-hmm.
conventional path that you would have wanted to follow, but because you followed that path, you were able to
Yeah,
discover many more things about yourself. The fact that you are
yeah.
able to leverage all the opportunities that came by, your inquisitive nature is also one of the things I think
Mm-hmm.
has brought you this far. And I just wanted to
Mm.
say a very big thank you for sharing your story with us. I know it's sometimes difficult for people to be this vulnerable and just talk about the things they have gone through. But like
Mm-hmm.
you mentioned, the three things that I picked out from you always have a support system, people who can
Yeah.
give you advice when you need it, people who can support you even when
Mm-hmm.
you're broken. And the second one, I think the one which has
Mm-hmm.
really worked for you is to work hard. You from the
Yeah.
very beginning, you had always shown that you wanted to do your best. You always put in your energy, always put in
Yeah.
all the efforts you could. And the last one,
Yeah.
the shot of adrenaline and passion. I think that,
Passion. Yeah.
yeah, it's also the passion that made you end up in the public policy space. Because right from when you were a kid, the
Yeah.
admiration for the, or the, you see your level of engagement with trying to figure out why some things were going well and some things were not
Yeah.
going well. You always wanted to
Mm-hmm.
be on the path where things are going well. So I think that you getting into public policy now is just a perfect way of having that dream achieved. So
Yeah.
all the things that generate emotional joy. And just to end with what your father said, humans are born to work as birds
As
are
birds to
to
fly.
fly. And I hope that Rashad, you will just keep flying. You have already set a pace for yourself. And I just wanted to say a very big thank you. And I hope that your story is also going to inspire other people who are struggling with one transition or the other,
Amen.
who are struggling to find their passion in life. Thank you so much,
Amen.
Rashad. It's been an honor listening to you. Thank
Maybe
you so much.
you've blessed me,
Ah,
and the pleasure is all mine. Honestly,
yes,
I'm
thank you. And
very
to my guests who have been very
happy,
fervent listeners, looking
and
forward to having you all again
thank
in
you,
the next episode.
thank you.